Well, it's on to the bottom of the third inning back at Fenway Park with the Red Sox on top 2-0. Great to have with us the new president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, and has to be a whirlwind of a day for you today. Dave, is a lot of interviews today, to say the least.
Well, it has been an exciting whirlwind day, but it's also been a very exciting, fun, enjoyable time period in the start of. We look for a good regime here and being part of a lot of good baseball games and some championships.
You had some decisions to make once you left Detroit. I know there were probably a great many offers for you, but what brought you to Boston specifically?
Well, there are a few reasons. I think first and foremost, knowing John Henry like I do. I've known Tom a little bit, but I knew John very well. Had a real nice visit with John and Tom and Mike Gordon last week. That starts it. But I think also just baseball in Boston, the tradition of baseball here, a tradition franchise, a storied franchise, the passion here in this city. The ability to have a chance to really be competitive and win on a yearly basis, a good minor league system, the fan base, phenomenal. It's hard to look for much more really when you start talking about a baseball franchise. So for me, it was more a matter of why would you wait for maybe another opportunity when you have the opportunity to come here to me, which would be one of the best franchises in professional sports and a long tradition franchise.
And Dave, he came in with about 6 weeks left in this season. I think that's important because it gives you a good look at the landscape around here, the office setting, you know, the people that work inside, and of course trying to evaluate what you have on the field as you move into the offseason.
I think so. I think it's a really important. Sometimes it's not possible, but when I met with Tom and John and Mike, they basically said, when would you like to start if you had an ideal scenario? And I said, well, really as soon as possible, because if you can come in and evaluate over the last 6-7 weeks of the season, get to know the players as far as watching them is concerned, getting to know the staff members, the office, I think it helps you a lot going into the wintertime when we need to do a lot of our planning for the next season. So for me, it's an ideal scenario joining the club at this time.
You've been here one day, but I know you know a lot about every organization in baseball. Your thoughts on the organization as you enter it right now and what perhaps needs to happen here moving forward?
Well, it's a well-regarded organization, won a world championship 2 years ago. The minor league system, very highly thought of and deservedly so. The young players coming here, very well respected. But I think the key here is that just like a lot of places when you're struggling, we're going to have to make sure that we can improve the pitching at this point.
Can you stay another half inning?
Sure, very happy.
We will step aside and come back with more with Dave Dombrowski right after this. There's a ground ball right side to first. Shaw will shovel to Kelly for the out. The first out of the fourth inning. Visiting with Dave Dombrowski. And Dave, I know there's a lot of questions today. You fielded a bunch of questions for a long time, but if you could, in a nutshell, tell us a little bit about what your baseball philosophy has been. You've been very successful as a general manager, as a president of baseball operations. How would you describe your own philosophy?
Well, I think there's a couple different ways to approach that. One is my overall management philosophy as far as putting together a good organization, a good baseball organization. And I think you get quality people around you. You need to bring them on board. You need to communicate well. You need to be on the same page and delegate responsibility, yet stay on top of things. So that's really what I try to do there, is to put good people around, because you can't do everything yourself no matter who you are. You have to have somebody that's watching player development, scouting, Latin American operations. You have people with the rules, people that are in the clubhouse. So to me, that's the important part. When it comes to on the field aspect of it, I'm probably not a lot different than many other people. I love power pitchers that get people out. I mean, if you can have power pitching, I think it's a little bit of an advantage on the mound. Good pitching. Ideally, you want outstanding defense up the middle of the field with some speed attached to it. And if you can get some offense, great. And you put the corners, if you can get some of your pop out there and produce some offense. But I think you also have to be in a spot where you have to adjust to those things, because idealistically that doesn't happen very often. It's great if you can, but all of a sudden you're in a spot where the best player coming up doesn't fit that scenario, and you just have to make it work at times.
Jackie Bradley Jr. running this down, turns and fires back in very quickly and holding Lindor to just a single.
I like defensive center fielders like that.
I saw you earlier go wow on a catch that Jackie made in center field, and he just really stopped a double right here. This ball looked like it was headed to the 420, but you can see Bradley able to cut it off, spin around, and get it back in and hold the base, the hitter to a single. Dave, I wanted to ask you, you've been in the game a long, long time now. You started off with Montreal, of course, and And the game has changed a lot, and especially with information that is available to you now as the president of baseball operations or a general manager. There's a lot of data that comes into the ball game, and I'd like to know the balance you have between that and what your eyes see.
Well, and it's a great question. I think, first of all, you're trying to get as much information as you possibly can. I don't think it ever hurts to get, when I say that, I guess there can be an overabundance, but I think you get as much information as you possibly can, and you try to make wise decisions. So for me, you combine the two. But I know myself, I mean, I look at all the analytical information, but I'll just use an example because it's from my own experience and not here. I really don't need analytics to tell me that Jose Iglesias is a good defensive shortstop. So if there was some factor that would say that he is not, I would believe my eyes.
Right.
So I think you listen to all of that, but I think one of the advantages that I have and other people that are in the game, when you've been in it for a long time, you realize what you can use, what can be helpful, and you digest all of it, and then you make a decision. But I depend very heavily on our scouts. I've gone with scouts that say this guy's a good-looking player. I don't care what the analytics show. This guy's making improvements here. He's getting better command of his pitches. Breaking ball's getting sharper. Well, the statistics may not quite pick that up at times. But then there's other places where you talk about pitch framing, catcher framing a pitch. Well, a lot of times people can tell you that guy does a good job receiving the ball, but you may be able to take another step with the analytics that are involved in that. So I think you use it all.
Well, of course, Ben Cherington was the general manager here. He will stay on for a little while. It sounds like you will be hiring another general manager, though.
Yes, we offered the job to Ben. I talked to him about that. He declined that offer. I really had hoped that he would stay. He's a good man. I've known him for a long time. He's done a lot of good things here in the organization, but I also understand his decision. And so it's one where he's willing to help in the transition. So we're actually going to meet tomorrow, have a chance to visit for a while about different things. And then eventually we'll hire a general manager. And I don't want to rush into that. I want to make sure we get the right person, somebody that we work well together, that supports the people in the organization. I don't think that's something we have to rush in and do right away. So we have some time there. But that will be an important hire for us for sure, because we'll work hand in hand on doing basically everything.
And of course, the manager decision will follow after that, much further down the road, I'm sure. But you have a lot of stuff going on here. Short period of time, I guess.
Well, there is. There's a long list of things to do and to learn in a short time period, but that's part of the responsibilities.
Go to second for one, back to first. It'll get there, and it's a double play. Nicely done. That will end the inning and our conversation with Dave Dombrowski. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.